There were three reasons for this particular study to be commissioned. I think firstly, you would recall that 2014 was actually the Africa focus on agriculture. Amongst the majority of women are in agriculture and food security. Secondly, we also know that women own small plots, but when you look at the yield of their farming, it's very low. At the end of the day, the woman who tills the land is not in the value chain when it hits the markets, the national, regional or global markets. And we felt that there was a need to do a study that would make a real difference for women. We wanted job creation, we wanted to look at impact and scale. And hence I had a discussion with a number of people. And we thought that the best thing to do is to settle on 4 products. So this particular study looks at coffee, cassava, cotton and cocoa. The report very clearly indicates why there's a need to look at retaining women in value chains, but also to take them up the value chain. Gross domestic product of countries comes from agriculture. And yet when you look at women's productivity, they yield 20% less than men farmers. And it's again because of their lack of access to productive assets. So what we want to do is to look at how we can support women to retain them throughout the value chain. We also see this as one area, and McKinsey says this, where we can create a number of jobs. And we want to bring women and youth into agriculture because we know that our agricultural population is an aging population. We need to transform it completely, to bring dynamism into it, and this study will contribute towards that. There were also discussions with our agriculture department, and I must say Dr. Chiji Ojokwe was a good ally on this. He was ready to be in there and take this forward because of his passion at looking at agriculture of women and youth. We of course went through a process, the normal procurement process, and through this commissioned a report through McKinsey that's on the table today. You know, one would quite argue that when you look at industrialization, you should focus on manufacturing, there's more jobs. But let's look at agriculture and the whole reality on its potential that I reflected on earlier towards contributing towards the GDP of countries. But the second issue is food security. Africa is not producing enough food, not only for its people, but for export as well. And we should look at agro-business and all. You look at, for example, cocoa and coffee. Largest producers are on the continent, but we're not really seeing the growth, upward growth that's required. And through the study, we'd want to look at the transformation through the value chain, but we also want to see how we can bring women into the value chain and retain them in the value chain. But it's also looking at the revitalization of the agricultural sector. And we need to do it, as one wants to put it very simply, from the seed to the market. And we want to keep everyone, the women and youth, in throughout the value and supply chain. And we want women to be there with high value products as well. We want to transform this industry, ensure the mechanization of the sector, ensuring that there is the required resources and support to make the difference required. Why the women? 60% of women's productive activity is in agriculture, and we need to do it in a way that the women are leading and part of that value chain, young and old. And the bank should be using it in country and share this with the policymakers, with governments, with the private sector, and here as the multilateral development bank on the African continent, Africa's bank, we want to contribute towards that change.